So you're finally getting people. Hooray? Maybe you are a small dev team and you just had a wildly successful Kickstarter. Maybe you are a project at a studio within a larger publishing organization and the project that was in front of you finally shipped. But either way, you suddenly have the ability to add a bunch more people. This can be an exciting time, but it can also be a time that can be very dangerous. It's not uncommon to see teams get a giant influx of resources and literally rip themselves apart. If you aren't careful in terms of how you grow, you can very quickly lose control of the project. Because within a very short period of time, the number of people who are new to the project, new to the culture, new to the vision, might vastly outnumber the number of people who have been there from the beginning. And while it is good, while it is healthy to integrate new voices, new eyes, new perspectives into your project as you go, having such a chaotic shift in the center of your project can cause the entire thing to unravel and come apart in very short order. In some cases, you have control over the rate of inflow onto your project. If you had a successful Kickstarter, unless you've made some pretty crazy promises, chances are you're able to grow at a relatively controlled pace. You can take your team from 1 to 2 and then spend the time to integrate that person, and then go from 2 to 3 and from 3 to 5 and grow over time, maintaining control as you go. But in some cases, you don't have that ability. If you are the next project down the line at a studio within a larger publishing organization, and the previous game just shipped, and they're not doing any DLC, you might have to figure out how to integrate 100 people onto your project in a couple of days or a week. So if you are in a position to control your growth, my advice is to do so, to not get so excited about the possibilities that you lose sight of the danger of your momentum outpacing your ability to adequately steer the project. If you had a tiny team, chances are you haven't been spending most of your time getting ready for this influx of people. Because if you were building a Kickstarter, you had to build the pitch deck for the Kickstarter and a video and try to get money into the Kickstarter. If you were a vision team within a larger organization, you were building pitch decks and you were trying to get the organization on board in terms of giving you money to make this game. These exercises aren't completely aligned with bringing a bunch of people on board. That video for Kickstarter or that pitch deck for the executives at your publisher aren't useless. They are hinting at vision, but they're usually an outward-facing vision. When you are bringing in people to develop your project, what you need in terms of vision material, in terms of razors, in terms of X statements, is different than what you need to get someone to give you $15 on Kickstarter or to get an executive to allow you to continue to make your project. But you didn't have the people, so you just did what was the most urgent thing at any one moment. You spent your time trying to get money into the studio or trying to keep the project from getting canceled. Now you have to scramble to turn that or turn something else into the materials that you need in order to onboard a whole bunch of people all at once. Additionally, if you've been in this state for a really long time, what can start to happen is your little team starts to speak its own language. It starts being unable to understand what it was like to not be on the project. And you can start to actually eat your own tail. You can become self-referential, you can become trapped in this little microcosm that you've been struggling to get out of for so long. In that case, it can be even harder to onboard people because you made design decisions and then made design decisions based upon those design decisions and several layers deep in some cases. And now a new person comes on and you may not even remember how you got to where you are. So when that new person is asking, when that new person is wondering why you decided that all of the NPCs have frog tattoos, there was a reason for that. It may be lost into your collective unconscious. And now is the moment when you kind of have to dig it all up and at least be able to explain it. This is not to say that you need to relitigate all those decisions, but if you don't remember why, now's a good time to try to remember why, or at least try to rationalize those decisions after the fact. If you can't do that, then there's a chance that that decision wasn't made for a very good reason. It might have just been made because you were spinning your wheels for a really long time, getting bored of previous versions of your decisions. Now's a good time to at least consider if those decisions were made for good reasons, because now you're bringing in people who can ask why a lot, and you should take that opportunity to challenge some of the previous things you decided. Because the reality is the work that came before now is a small percentage of what is ultimately going to go into this game. So if you have to throw some of that away, now's not a bad time to do that. Arguably, the worst case of this is when you are a small project that has been greenlit but then starved out for resources. If you are a project that hasn't been greenlit yet, then you are constantly in a state of improving your messaging because you are fighting for your own survival. You are building presentations for the executives. You are building presentations for Kickstarter. And so when people are finally available, you have some form of messaging that makes sense. It's not perfect messaging. It's not targeted at game devs. It's targeted at video game executives, or it's targeted at the general public in the case of a Kickstarter. But it's something. It's a starting point. If, on the other hand, you've already been greenlit, if you've been told that you are going to survive, you just need to wait for people, then that pressure goes away. And what tends to happen is that small group of people, instead of looking outward, starts to look inward. And it can start to eat itself to a certain degree. That group of people starts to develop inside jokes. It starts to develop its own shorthands that may not make sense to anyone else. And there's a good chance that it's not going to be documented either. Because if the team consists of 8 to 15 people, you don't really need very much documentation. The tribal knowledge is able to move around through that small group of people really quickly. But then when it comes time to suddenly integrate a bunch more people, that lack of documentation is going to prove a problem. Because in some cases, you don't even really remember the reason why you decided to call combat rounds turtle time. You don't even remember the reason. It just became part of your tiny little culture. And culture in small groups can move very quickly. While you probably started with a culture similar to the rest of the organization, in that 6, 9, 12, 24 months that you were an isolated group of people, your culture can deviate really quickly, quite a lot, from the overall group that you're now expected to integrate people from. You've essentially become an Ouroboros. You're eating your own tail. And as a result, it's difficult for you to eat anything new. As new people are coming in, ideally you want to integrate them into the whole. If you've been inward looking for so long, if you've circled your wagons, if you've become this tight-knit group that only knows how to talk to itself anymore, new people can essentially bounce off the armor that you've formed over the last period of time and not integrate at all. And what you can end up with, if you're not careful, is a core group of people who have been on the project since the very beginning that always feel like they're the real project and these new people are intruders. When you are fighting for survival, you always have to look outwards to some degree, and it can make it a little bit easier. Ideally, you never let a greenlit project run on this starvation diet for too long. Ideally, you have at least some churn occurring. So if you are a group of 8 people, even if you can't really grow, having a new person come in and another person leave keeps the project mixing to some degree, keeps those barriers from firming up too much. If you find yourself in a situation where you're having to grow from 50 people to 150 people over the course of a few weeks, how do you mitigate this as best you can? First of all, if you can, spread that out a little bit. Rather than those 100 people joining you all on the same day, maybe you can have people go on vacation. Maybe you can turn that tsunami into a flood by turning a single day into at least a couple of weeks. Now you spread those 100 people across 10 days, so it's only 10 people a day, as opposed to 100 people all at once. This gives you some opportunity to do some of the onboarding that you want to do. Ideally, you would have everybody that is joining your project be attached to someone else within the project. If what you have is a small but complete team and what you're adding is capacity, then you have an opportunity to grow pods around all of your existing individual people. So if you have a level designer, rather than starting up a bunch of new level design pods, add some capacity to that level designer and let that person be responsible for integrating those 3 or 4 new level designers that you're adding. And once you're more comfortable that you have integrated those people into your culture, into the vision of the team, then you might consider restructuring and splitting your level designers apart into 3 or 4 separate level design pods. But in those early days, it's more important to get everyone integrated into the team than necessarily building a structure that is going to be the most efficient structure you're going to have in the long term. It's important to remember that structure isn't forever, and indeed, you should expect and possibly even intentionally plan for changing your structure over the course of a project. And right now, when you're potentially tripling your team size, it's a great opportunity to adopt a structure that's good at integrating people as opposed to necessarily the structure you're going to hold long term. If you do that, if you adopt a structure that's for now, that's for team building, then set yourself a date 3-6 months in the future where you're going to plan to revisit that structure, potentially pull it apart and put it back together again to adopt a structure for your now fully integrated team to take it through into production and beyond. If you're going to do that, it's a good idea to let the team know that this is what's going to happen, that this structure is for now. It's serving this specific purpose, and you are going to likely change it in the future. People can get very comfortable, very settled in a particular structure, and any effort to change it in the future is going to meet resistance. But if they understand that for right now, we are focusing on team cohesion, and later we'll revisit that and think about whether or not production efficiency is well served by this structure or if we need something different. People have that in the back of their minds throughout this period. They can embrace the structure for what it is. Something that's designed to disseminate culture, something that's designed to integrate people into the game that you're making. Now, if you don't have a complete team and you're suddenly getting a massive influx of people, you are going to have people joining your project that are going to end up leading parts of your resulting game. In that case, you're going to really want to focus on those new leaders in terms of ensuring that they are integrating into the team effectively. If you can, ideally you would bring those leaders on first, at least a couple of weeks early, in order to get them on board, in order to get them understanding the game that you're making. And they can actually help in the process of integrating the next people, the next wave of people that comes after them. If you go from having 0 level artists to suddenly having 20 level artists on a single day, the natural result of that is likely going to be quite dangerous siloing. That level art team, because they are adrift in a team they don't really understand, a culture they don't really understand, a project they don't yet fully understand, they are going to tend to look inward, form a pod of their own, regardless of your official structure. And that can result in there being difficulty in integrating them. If instead you can bring in that new level art lead that's going to lead that team, integrate them into your processes, integrate them into your team, and then bring the other level artists on afterwards, you have a better chance of allowing those level artists to integrate more fully into the team. It is a very exciting moment when you go from being a project that is spending almost 100% of its effort simply trying to survive, simply trying to make any forward progress, to one that has an opportunity to actually make a game. But if you aren't careful, you run the risk of losing sight of the game you're trying to make, of simply being a machine that is running for the sake of running, of having a bunch of disparate groups pulling in a multitude of different directions, of potentially introducing fatal cultural silos as you fail to adequately integrate some of the new disciplines you're adding to your team. So it's good to be excited. It's good to be glad that you're finally a real project, that you're finally able to make some forward progress. But take it as slowly as you can. Try to finish integrating people before you add more, if you can. And be very cognizant of the fact that your structure now doesn't have to be your structure later. A special thanks to my members. They provide the resources that this channel needs to keep running. If you're interested in becoming a member, there's a link to that down in the description. We also have a Patreon if you're more comfortable supporting the channel in that way. Both patrons and channel members get access to our Discord. So if you're looking for a way to interact with the community to a deeper level, this is an excellent way to do that. Have you ever been on a team that suddenly tripled in size? What happened? Did it go well? Or did the project stall out for 6 months? Or did it rip itself apart? I've seen all three kinds of things happen. Let's talk about it down in the comments. I will see you again soon. Thank you.